Welcome back to Talk of the Town. I'm Karen Allen, and I'm here with author Connie Stevens. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Now, first of all, you have a very famous name, and how much do you have to kind of go back and forth? I'm not the Connie Stevens from.
I actually had to have the person who designs and maintains my website to put a little blurb on there that says Connie is not the actress and singer from the 1950s and 60s, because I was getting some like stalker email.
Well, I have to say this. I'm a Karen Allen, and Karen Allen has a famous name. She was on with Harrison Ford.
Yes.
What's the name of that? I don't even remember the name of it now. But anyway, she's a famous actress. So I feel your pain with having a famous name, but it is also a good thing because your name sticks with people. So, so Connie Stevens, I'm so glad to have you today. Let's talk about your writing. You are an author, up and coming, and I am so thankful that you're. How did you get started writing?
I actually started writing when I was in high school, and it was purely for my own enjoyment. And then life happens, and a couple of decades went by, and I started writing again. I thought it was going to be for purely my own enjoyment, but I started writing more seriously, and I recognized that I just had a passion that was driving me to write. So I attended a one-day seminar in Atlanta for the purpose of finding out what all being a writer entailed, and it scared me to death. But it didn't scare me bad enough to extinguish that passion. I just kept at it, and I just kept writing and just wanted to move forward with it.
How important, you said a word that it always strikes a chord with me, and that word is passion. How important do you think passion is when it comes to a gifting?
If you don't have the passion, then it's just purely a hobby, and it's just purely something that you dabble in. If you have a passion, it drives you to grow and to stretch yourself.
Which I think is that's a really good key to know whether or not you're where you're supposed to be. If your passion is driving you forward. Now, you recently picked up a publisher with these wonderful stories that you are writing. I'd love, first of all, to hear what kind of stories do you write, and how in the world did you get a publisher? Because this girl knows how hard it is, and so that tells me that there's something really special about what it is that you do. So what are your stories about, and how did you go about getting published?
Well, I write Christian fiction, and primarily I write historicals. I love the history. I love the research, and so I really enjoy going back in time, to the 19th century, and finding out how they did things and crafting a story out of this. But actually finding a publisher, as you know, is a multi-step process. You keep working, you keep learning, you keep expanding yourself as a writer. You never stop learning. And when I started attending writers' conferences, I met with other authors, and I networked with them. I met with agents and editors, and in 2008 I signed with an agent, and then in 2009 I attended the National Conference of the American Christian Fiction Writers, ACFW, and they have a tradition. Every year at their conference, 2 editors from Barber Publishing take the stage on the very first night of the conference, and they announce the awarding of a first-time contract to previously unpublished authors. And last year, my novel, Leave Me Never, was awarded a first-time contract.
Wow. Wow. How did that make you feel when you got that recognition?
Well, initially, I was so dumbfounded. I didn't hear her say my name. I just heard her announce the title, and I went, oh man, now I have to come up with another title because someone else is using my title. And my critique group was sitting with me, and they all were screaming, and I thought, why are they screaming? Yeah. And finally one of my friends grabbed me by my shoulders, and she shook me, and she said, Connie, it's you. And I just kind of wandered up to the stage in a daze, and I remember that editor was smiling as she handed me an envelope, so I suppose that was a good thing.
Yeah, what a great affirmation of
It
what
was.
you do.
It was.
And how well you do it was awarded. I think
was.
that's great. And I do know it's very difficult to kind of break into this world, the world of publishing. So again, it tells me how your passion and your gifting has created something that is worth sharing. And so I'm excited to hear that. But you know, in your writing and in all of your energies to get your book published, were there ever times that you just wanted to throw your hands up and say, I'm done, I quit?
Oh, goodness. Quit is not a word that I like to use. There have been plenty of times when I questioned the reality of God's call on my life to write. I wanted to make sure that it was God that was calling me to do this and not me that was calling me to do this. And so whenever I walked through these periods of doubting, I kept bringing myself back to my starting point, which is God is not going to start something in my life that he does not intend to finish. And knowing this, I am completely convinced that God is committed to helping me achieve that which he puts before me.
Well said. Well said. I agree wholeheartedly, and I think that is what, in those moments, it pushes us through, and in the moments when we kind of sit back and think, I can't believe you're doing this in me, and isn't that
There have been a lot of times where I still say, why did I ever think I could do this?
But I think that's encouraging for people who may get frustrated, because I don't think there's a way to walk through this life without, whether you're walking in your gifting or not, and not get frustrated, because people are going to have their opinions, and things aren't going to always work out. But there's something great to know that you can just kind of push through, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Frustration is why God invented the delete key.
Yes, been there, done that. I think that's well said. Now, in your opinion, what makes a good author? Because I've read some books that, in my opinion, didn't work out really well. So, in your opinion, what makes a good author?
Well, other than that, never stop learning and never stop growing, and I can only answer this question from the perspective of a writer of Christian fiction. But I believe that if you are going to write Christian fiction, you must have a message, a theme in your book that is going to be valuable for your readers. Jesus told stories. There are 39 parables in the Gospels. And Jesus did not always speak to the rulers of the synagogue. Very often he was speaking to the common people, who were out there and who related more easily to a story. So Jesus used the vehicle of storytelling to get his point across, and in doing so, he was able to help his listeners and his followers to find a deeper level of faith and trust. And we, as writers of Christian fiction, have a responsibility to weave within our stories some element that has eternal value that our readers can carry away from our books.
I think that's what makes a good author to me. I'll tell you that. Let's talk about, every author has a different way of getting their stories together, whether they do a storyline. How do you personally, how do you get a story together? I was very interested to hear that you do the history part of it, and I know that has to come into play too. So how do you begin to get your storyline developed?
Well, first I come up with an idea for a story, and that's a whole other topic. A lot of people ask me, where do you get your ideas from? And your show isn't long enough. But when I start with an idea and I start to expand that idea, then the characters will actually begin to reveal themselves to me through and within the story. Once I start getting acquainted with the characters and they communicate with me what their goals are and their motivations, and I take those goals and motivations, and then I have to come up with elements of conflict that will seemingly prevent the characters from realizing their goals. And once I have like my expansion of a story, my characters, I know who they are, then I brainstorm the whole idea with my critique group. And we play a game called What If? What if this happens? Or what if your main character has something secretive in his background, in his past, that he has never shared with anyone, but it colors his motivation, and it drives his passion. Why does he do the things that he does? And so then I take some of these what ifs and I weave them into the plot, and then I try to write some semblance of a chapter by chapter synopsis. And I say try because I am what we call a seat of the pants writer. We have some writers who are plotters. They plot every detail of their story before they ever put the first word down. I cannot do that.
Not you, huh?
That's not me. I am a seat of the pants writer, which means I don't always know where my story is going. And in fact, about a month ago, one of my characters hijacked the story and said, "We're doing this." And I said, "Wait a minute."
I like how you said I like how you said that, you know, your husband reminds you that these characters aren't real, and you say, "Oh yes, they are."
Yeah, they are to me.
To you, because you just invest such time in them. Well, I am so intrigued by the gift of writing, and I know that the Lord has some great things planned for you. How can people get in touch with you, or maybe find out more about you and your upcoming books?
Well, my first book, Leave Me Never, is being published in January by Heartsong Presents, which is a division of Barber Publishing. My second book, Revealing Fire, is coming out in March. And my third book, Scars of Mercy, is coming out next July. People can go online to www.heartsongpresents.com, and they will see the entire list of all of their titles. And they can also visit my website at www.conniestevenswrites.com.
Well, I encourage our writers to go and visit, and I cannot wait to get my copies of all those books. I love Christian fiction, and I have just recently become a huge fan of Connie Stevens. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. It was fun.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or maybe even a show idea, you can log on to our website at windertv.org. And remember, every time that you invest in or serve our community, you just might become the talk of the town. We'll see you next time.